So now to our first guests who are on a mission to shut down the USDA's taxpayer-funded lab experiments on animals. The White Coat Waste Project is tirelessly working to save hundreds of cats in a nearby Maryland lab. And here with how you can join the fight are Vice President Justin Goodman and Mike Ryan, the Policy Director at the New England Anti-Vivisection Society. So welcome to the Pet Show, guys.
Thanks
welcome
for having
back,
you.
Justin. We're also always happy to have you here, even though we talk about really terrible things.
That's true, but there's always good news.
Yeah.
As today, there's good news. A new poll just came out. Pew Research conducted a national poll showing that for the first time in history, a majority of Americans, an all-time high, oppose animal testing. So we really have
Has it
the
taken
force.
that long for us to?
Unfortunately, but
Wow.
now we have the force of a majority of Americans who are on the same page as us and who are joining the fight to end this waste and abuse we're seeing in the federal government, like what the USDA is doing to kittens here in the DMV.
So refresh our viewers' memory, because I know we talked about this, 6 months or so ago, but the kitten experiments that are happening in Bethesda. Talk us about that.
Yeah, so earlier this year we discovered through the Freedom of Information Act that the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, since 1982 has been breeding about 100 kittens a year, force-feeding them parasite-infected raw meat, and collecting their feces for about 2 weeks when they're 8 weeks old, and then immediately killing and incinerating them. And we call this the kitten slaughterhouse. It's in Beltsville, Maryland, right next to the IKEA. For viewers who probably spend a lot of time up there shopping, this secretive lab has been there since 1982. $22 million have been spent, and 3,000 kittens have been killed, even though this research is unproductive, outdated. And the USDA itself admits that these kittens are perfectly healthy at the end of the project, and you were one of the many veterinarians who's gone on the record saying they could be adopted out into loving homes, but just because they don't care very much and kind of got caught in this institutional inertia, they just are killing wholesale hundreds of kittens. And we're fighting with the New England Anti-Vivisection Society to shut down the lab and get those kittens out.
Yeah. So you guys have stepped in and partnered on this. Tell me why this is so important to what you guys are working towards.
Well, we'd like the New England Anti-Vivisection Society would like these tests to end, but the least that the USDA can do in this example, given that we know the cats are healthy, as they've admitted, is to allow these cats to be adopted out. So we've got a network of shelters and rescues we work with that we know can get these cats and kittens placed, and we think it's time for the USDA to make this transition to where they do always look for a way to adopt out the animals. If they're not going to cancel the experiments, at least ensure the animals can be adopted out. One piece of good news is that this is also now the law. In Maryland, as of October 1st, legislation signed by Governor Hogan says that any testing taking place in the state of Maryland, that the animals there has to be a good faith effort to make sure the animals can be adopted out.
Wow.
We're hopeful that the USDA is working to accommodate this, and we think that they do want to abide the law. And our hope is that they will see this as a good faith offer that we're making, that we will take the cats, we'll pay for any medication that they may require to ensure they can be safely adopted out, and we'll make sure that they do. We're hopeful that they'll take us up on the offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got about a minute left. How can our viewers get involved in this, and how can we help to push this even further?
Well, thankfully, members of Congress have stepped up to take action to close these experiments and adopt the cats out. They've introduced the Kitten Act, just like it sounds, the Kitten Act. And if you visit kittenact.com, you could send a letter to Congress, to your members of Congress, letting them know you support this legislation and you want them to as well. We've also got some legislation passed earlier this year in the Senate urging the USDA to end the experiments and adopt the cats out. And we are hopeful, due to the new law being passed in Maryland and these federal efforts to pass the Kitten Act, that these experiments will be ended sooner rather than later.
ASAP.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for all the hard work that you do every day on the front of this. And I will put up on our Pet Show Facebook page the link to kittenact.com so that all of you can please go there and send that letter to your members of Congress immediately.